It's sort
I
of,
would like. I think all FI people like to draw because we see
yeah.
things in colors and shapes and movement.
I sometimes feel with my FI, I was just thinking about that today, that if I get overwhelmed by feelings, I normally want to process that by myself, not to create like a crazy, because I know how crazy it can be, with all those feelings. So then I kind of go and process it to myself, and then I sort of sort it out in my head, and then I will talk about it or something. I think that's something that I learned when I grew up, to do that, but I don't know.
And
Do
does it
you have that? How? Or...
Oh, sorry, I was looking at chat. Can you repeat that
does
real
it
quick?
render? Does this process render your feelings more neutralized or what?
What
No,
does?
it's
Oh,
sort of to make sense of them logically as well. Because when I feel, if something happens that upsets me, or I feel things very strongly, I usually feel like I want to process it in private, because it's like a very sensitive spot or something. And then once I've processed it, I can rationalize it.
What does it mean to
And
process it?
so Eric, I saw your video about TI and NI, and you explained that TI was is about understanding the concept. It's sort of and while TE is how to do it in the real world. FI is about really understanding why people feel the way they do. So it takes a lot of time to like distinguish the subtle feelings and the causal relationships in it. That's
yeah,
what.
and also what you feel and stuff.
Yeah.
So you mean amongst all those scribble scrabbles, there's some meanings?
Like if you imagine a color wheel, um, if I try to like distinguish every single feeling into like a different color, very subtle. Like I'm using figurative
My
language
color
here.
wheel is like blue,
Yes.
red, yellow. That's it.
But
Sad,
but I
angry,
mean,
happy.
Eric, through your music stuff, I mean, there's probably a lot of unconscious FI that will come out through your music.
Yeah, there is, to
And I
be
mean,
honest. I mean, the thing is, I actually have a lot of emotion put into that music, a lot of it. I do a lot of songs that are comedic and or lighthearted and or fun or whatever you want to call them. But I also have some serious songs. I have some really serious songs. The is Eric at the point of experiencing the sensation of emotion right now? No, I'm not. At the moment, I'm just all FE, no FI.
but
And
it's
go ahead.
interesting. I think I can see, everyone uses FI to a certain extent. I guess it's the knowing what it is and being familiar with it. I
Yeah.
guess it's
FI
that.
is about spending like hours and hours and hours in your life just like trying to analyze people's feelings. But
But what
this
does that mean to analyze their feelings?
it's like oh
Well,
it's
think of
like
it as TI.
what does it mean to think about and like a concept? You just repeat it in your mind until like it makes perfect sense to you. So for us,
That's
we'll
polar
like
SI. I mean, that's polar TI right there. That
No, but
that's
I was
it.
thinking, if you compare the way TI works, as an introverted judging function, FI, in a way, has a similar nature.
yeah.
Okay, but here's the
It's
thing.
just it deals
The
with
reason I said
feelings.
that, I don't mean to be like that. But the reason I said it is because that's not an acceptable definition of something,
Right, you
right?
want a
Like,
TI definition, but
right, because that doesn't give us. See, definitions have to eliminate certain possibilities, and they have to include other possibilities. You want us to do as much work as possible. You guys don't want definitions to do work. That's the best definition for polar TI. You don't want definitions to do work.
it's because okay, what is logic? I was reading like the definition of logic, and it's about like the way I understood that it was like it's the instinctive sense of the relationship between two objects with different properties, and that relationship is it's quite intuitive. But I think that's what thinking or TI is that it's like you can distinguish one object from another, and it's like a sense of relationship of objects.
Yeah, how do things relate to each other?
Right.
But specifically to objects. And I think people with strong TI, they can come to an understanding because they have that, it's based on that logical sense of how things work together.
Okay.
And it's subjective because it is a human, nature. It's like,
Okay, but here's one exception I'll take with that is I don't think it's about physical objects because I think that experience where you go when you're it is about relating things to each other, but more specifically it's about relating what's being said now to what was said before in ways designed to find things wrong and exclude them. So it's like keeping score, right? It's like a
but
game where you go.
How do you determine whether it's right or wrong? Isn't that the intuitive sense?
No,
Well,
I said.
See, that's why I started with it has a duration. The best way to think about logic is to think of a flow. There's a set of people exchanging arguments, let's say, over the course of 10 minutes. And there's going to be different arguments based on the flow. What logic is going, you said this earlier, and you said this here.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, you said if you did this, then this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if this happens, that's bad and we should win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but of course the thing is, what you're saying about the intuitive relationship is noting, you have to note the equivalencies. So they might say here that they're manufacturing sabers for battlefield reenactments for the Civil War. But then this card over here, they might say, weapons manufacturers in the Middle East cause this thing right here. And then it's up to you to say, okay, well, are you advocating that manufacturing of weapons causes blah, 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 blah? Because if so, then you just linked into your own warrant down here. You said here they're making bayonets, so you have to take the same thing. Now, of course, that's not actually true. Because the arms manufacturers are probably making AK-47s, they're making battlefield bayonets.
Hello.
But you're going to try to draw the equivalency anyway. That's what it boils down to is all of that shit.
But what you guys are seeing is like the underlying structure that is within this example, like the real world example.
No.
And
But I put the link in chat where you can watch room 1 if you want.
We can watch what?
what?
I don't see a link in the chat.
Maybe she doesn't see us.
She's in room
That
2
is
probably.
weird. Yeah, so you're describing like the underlying logical connection in a situation, Eric, and but the underlying structure is subjective.
Well, okay, it's relative. That doesn't mean it's subjective, but it's definitely relative. Now, look, here's the difference between TE and TI is that TE is concerned with objects in the world. So when you said TI is about relationship of two objects, TE is actually about the objects in the world, but its evaluatory metric is objective but soft. Okay, it's objective but soft, which means what was my job? To put up the fence. Did I complete the job? Yes. Did I kind of half-ass the job? Yeah. Do I get credit for doing the job? Is it done or not done? See, it's objective. Yes, the fence is there, but it's soft. In contrast, TI is subjective but hard. So it goes. First of all, let's define what counts as the offense being done. What are specific attributes it needs to have to be considered done? Did it meet those attributes? Yes. Okay. Oh, so we can't agree on what the attributes are. You and I can't agree on the attributes. You want to say to be done, it has to be completely finished, plus have been blessed by the Pope. And I'm saying, well, that's ridiculous. It shouldn't have to. It's finished. It's perfect. I did a wonderful job. I just didn't get it blessed by the Pope. You never said I had to. So why shouldn't you have to pay me? So now you've got a situation where there's a disagreement over the definition of done. One person has a reasonable definition. It's done. The other person has an unreasonable definition. It's done, and surprise, now you have to get the Pope to bless it. Okay? So to argue these things out is basically a matter of linking to things people agree are absolutely true. So, I say, so we can all agree, right, that going into a hospital maternity ward on a random Tuesday afternoon with a spiked club and bashing newborns in the face is bad, right?
That, though?
What?
That's what makes it subjective, is that it's based on what people logically think is correct. People.
But he did say that it's subjective but hard.
It's relative. Yeah. That's why the best word for it is relative. Because once we accept that for the purposes of the next 5 minutes, this thing's right here, okay? Then we can do things to it. Is it actually right there? For the purposes of the next 5 minutes, we have pinned it so that we can work with it. So if I pin down the statement, all frogs can fly, then I can bring in other shit and work with it. All frogs can fly.
Some people may believe that all frogs can fly, while other people may believe that
no,
frogs
but we're not.
fly.
It doesn't matter, because what we can all agree on is, for the purposes of this game, I'm the hat in Monopoly. For the purposes of this game, we're going to agree that frogs can fly, just so we can talk about it. We're all agreeing with that. We have a list of facts and not facts. And for the purpose of this game, we're going to agree that these facts, we're going to take them as God's honest truth. God standing before us saying, if you do not agree with this, you will burn into hell forever.
Yeah, okay. I get that.
Now,
I'm just trying to think of how you could compare this process to FI. I'm just kind of...
You can't.
No, that's the thing. You can't really do that. So that's why the functions aren't really translatable in...
Yes, you can.
Well, in a way you can, but like...
The other person might come to the... This scenario will make this person feel this way. And then based on that, you can figure out how he or she will feel in the next situation, or to understand her emotional network of how she actually will relate or feel.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess you have, as an FI user, you have this vast database of all these different emotions or different feelings or different situations, and you can relate them to each other. And actually, whenever I think about a situation, dynamics between people, and there was a certain feeling, I'm always trying to kind of process it and see what was a bit off, or what was, to pinpoint what exactly it was, in a sort of similar way.
I've got something informative to draw distinction, okay? TI is subject to the law of non-contradiction, usually, and it's subject to conditionality, which means I can't say this is both a cigarette and not a cigarette, and without violating logic, right? I can't.
Why not?
Okay,
see,
here's an
that's
example.
Subjective.
Here's an example.
Here's my point. It's based on the assumption that people have logic. That as human beings, you have that intuitive knowing.
Does that mean that the knowing is made out of cheese, or does it mean something else?
No, it means it's like a innate human ability to distinguish, to understand that.
So does it not mean then that it's made out of cheese?
What?
Well, I asked you what intuitive meant. I'm giving you an option. Does it mean?
You're proving my point right now, because
I'm
logical understanding, but I don't follow.
I'm helping. I'm trying to explain it in the best possible way.
Yeah, what was it?
I'm trying to explain it the best possible way I can, okay? Does the word dog mean a furry animal that barks, or does it mean a tall plant with leaves?
It could be both, depending on the person.
Okay, let's play this then. How about this? Can we agree to call this a lighter? Call this the lighter, okay? Can we agree to call this the lighter for the next 5 minutes? And to know that anytime anybody says the lighter for the next 5 minutes, they're referring to this.
The lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Let's just agree on that.
Yes,
How,
true.
so that he.
Want me to
but
time
you may
it?
not. I really know whether it's a lighter or not. It might actually be different from Cook.
It doesn't matter if it is. We're not saying we agree that it is a lighter. We're saying for the purpose of this game, if you don't want to play the game, Howard, that's fine. We can exclude you for the game, and we can play everybody else with the game.
Yes, you can assume that it is a lighter.
Okay, so we're going to play a game called Assume and Find Out What Happens. It's called Assume and Find Out What Happens. It's a wonderful game. You get 2 moves. You get to assume, you get to find out. It's great. Okay? So we're going to assume this is the lighter. Okay?
Do you want me to time that for 10 minutes?
No, thank you. I appreciate
I'm
that.
timing
though.
it.
So
I'm timing
this
it.
is the lighter. Now, what we're going to play is if you can say something about the lighter that's not true. Can you find something to say about the lighter that's not true?
That lighter is blue.
Correct. Can we all agree that the lighter is blue is a false statement?
Yes. The lighter produces water.
You bought the lighter recently because it's not damaged.
But can we agree that the lighter is blue is a false statement?
See, you can do it with very simple claims.
Okay,
Right.
wait. I'm gonna go one further here. Make sure we understand. I'm gonna say
the border of like truth and false, then it becomes subjective.
okay. How? Let me add another axiom for us. Okay, for the purposes of this game, every statement has 3 possible designations: true, false, or no truth value. Okay. Something that's true is consistent with other statements that we've agreed to. We've agreed this is the lighter. If the statement being said is consistent within common meanings of the words with our observational data, we're going to call that true. If it's
Yeah, I get that.
inconsistent with our observational data, we're going to call it false. And if it's a question or a command, we're going to call it no truth value. Because asking you a question doesn't have a truth value, right? Do you like bananas? Liar! No truth value to that because it's a question. Okay, so those are the 3 possible things. This lighter is blue. What's the truth value?
It's not.
Yeah.
Not.
It's false. Okay? So once you do that, everything else follows from there. Once you get somebody pinned, that's why logic is all about pinning people.
What if I was colorblind and I didn't know?
Well, then
You would still call
then we'd
it-
have to use a different example.
What if I thought that was actually false? For example, I was colorblind and I saw the color yellow.
Well, you'd still call
I
it blue
really
because
believe that it's yellow.
Were you
still call it blue,
unaware
though.
of your colorblindness before coming into this challenge? Is this how you discovered your colorblindness?
No, this is why it's subjective.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think of it like mathematics, for example, you have X and Y, you have numbers as sort of symbols to illustrate something that you can use to figure out a system or figure out how things work. It's kind of like that, isn't it, Eric?
It is very much like the math of grammar. It's predicated on the basic idea that every statement has a truth value. And it's from there you go, okay, well, how do you determine it? The thing is, what mostly logic is about, though, is the grammar of the whole thing. So it's more interested in valid arguments than it is in true arguments. So
Yeah.
logic is concerned with the fact that all pigs breathe. I breathe, therefore I'm a pig, is invalid. But it's the same concern with all men breathe, I breathe, therefore I am a man. They're both the same invalid, even though one of them is true and one of them is false. That's logic.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting with the in relation to if you think of FI, which is all about authenticity and truth, and so they're different.
Authenticity, that's the word I hear FI users say most frequently about what matters to them. Like I was talking to Cameron, ISTJ, I said, what's your hidden, I was talking about what his hidden agenda was, and the word that he most identified with was authenticity. That's what he's after. But I see it as he's after loving another person authentically. Because that's FI. FI is I love you. FE is you love me.
All Asians are smart. I am Asian, therefore I am smart.
Now that's valid. But if he said all Asians are smart, I am smart, therefore I am Asian, that would be invalid. And the reason is because just because all birds can fly doesn't mean that everything that's flying is a bird.
Yes, but that's what I was trying to. That's the thing I'm trying to point out is that logical sense. It's not objective. It's how humans logically see the world.
It is objective in the same way that TE is objective. That it has its objectivity on one vector and its subjectivity on the other.
TE is objective because it's based on empirical data.
But that's because
It's
you
almost
fail
like
to understand that you have to
proving
define the outcomes.
TE is like proving it's like applied TI.
No.
You're applying the human logics to
No.
the real world, and if it works, if everyone see that it works, it becomes TE.
So what other sorts of logic are there? So like you're defining this human logic. How does that differentiate from logic without a modifier?
Well,
Don't
it's
beat
just-
him up. Try to help him
it's like-
understand.
No.
I will, I
it's
just wanna know.
I'm comparing this to FI. It's like human emotions. What other kind of emotions are there? It's just a
Dog
cognitive
emotions.
process that is constant in all humans.
I just got shot like a bitch.
I mean, I'm just not seeing where you're differentiating between because Eric's just saying that. I mean, we're talking about predicate logic, which is you establish something, and then you make a hypothesis based on that, more or less, and then you go, is that valid? Does that make sense within the context of whatever the logic? Because the logic exists within a context, but it's objective within that context.